Welcome everyone, especially our Taiwan chair, Professor Zhang, and also our speakers of today. My name is Wang. I work for the International Institute for Asian Studies, the IIAS. You will have a lovely bag from us. And together with my colleague Adele in the back that you met this morning, I'm coordinating the workshop today here. Normally, I organize the events outside of the Netherlands. This is actually only my one of the few events that I organize in the Netherlands itself. But since a few years, I've adopted the organization of this Taiwan Chair workshop, and it's always been a pleasure to work with the different Taiwan chairs. Today, the workshop is convened by our current Taiwan chair, Professor Zhang. The Taiwan Studies program is a collaboration between the Department of Cross-Strait Education of the Ministry of Education of the Republic of China, Taiwan, the Faculty of Humanities of Leiden University, and our institute, the IIAS. For this program, a Chair of Taiwan Studies Fellowship was established for a visiting scholar to come and teach and to conduct research at Leiden University and at IIAS. Winda has been with us since autumn last year, and with this workshop, he will conclude his position as Taiwan Chair for this term. Now, please, a warm welcome to our Chair of Taiwan Studies, Professor Zhang.
Thank you so much. And okay, my name is Zhang. I'm the currently, the chair for the Taiwan study in IIAS and also Leiden University. And thanks to the way to give me so warm and very detailed introduction about this kind of program and also the workshop. This workshop actually is quite international because we invite, the speakers from different regions, different countries, and to share their, their experience and also their knowledge about this kind of TCM in different kind of, the regions, also different fields, or this kind of like histories or maybe cultures or even real TCM practice. Yeah. So welcome, and I will say today is good day because yesterday was good day, good weather, right? And we were worried about Dutch people, they don't like it to come inside in the sunny day. But today the weather changed to become cloudy and also a little bit cold. So it's a good way to let us sit here and listen all of the speakers' presentation. Yeah. And I also have to say the topic that we talk about today is respective of traditional Thai medicine and from Thai experience to the global practice. So it means this morning, the session will focus on the Taiwan's experience. So we have the 5 speakers, and the first one will be the Professor Yi-Chang, and he will introduce about the Taiwan, TCM and the TCM in Taiwan, including how to integrate into the modern healthcare system, and also how the political and also policy strategy to put TCM into the national health insurance, and also how to do it for the long-term care. Especially now Taiwan, we are entered to the super age society. Super age, it means we have 20% of the population over 65 years already. Yeah, but also we also have a different kind of regulations. Where, like for example, the Po-Hsun Chen, he will talk about some Aristolochic acid. This issue we have found in the 1993, it was so serious about the toxicity from herbs. But in Taiwan, we also try to use this kind of process to transfer to the regulation to give the safe, the guide for all of the patients and also the practitioners. And Daniele, he will talk about it very interesting because he spent 10 months, right? 10 months in Taiwan, and he just sit down behind the doctor and to watch how they practice the TCM in Taiwan, and also how to. They also try to. He also try to know how the education and how there is the systems we have in Taiwan. So this means this morning we will focus on the Taiwan experience to talk about the regulation, education, and something we are doing now. And afternoon we are across the board. The board is we will not only focus on Taiwan, we also will focus on the in Netherlands, in Germany, in Europe, and even in Africa. So afternoon also very interesting because Professor she will talk about TCM in East Africa. It's quite interesting. we will see how she did in this kind of special the research. Yeah, and of course we also invite the different people come to Julia and Esther to talk about the DCM, the promotion and also education in Europe and also in the Netherlands. Now, of course, we also have two speakers, very special. One is from Volker. He will talk about the philosophy and the Chinese medicine. Okay, and also very interesting from Professor Zhang. She will talk about silver needles and silver screen. I think it's a very interesting topic today. Yeah, because we will see some movies, right? Maybe, yeah, to see how the needles is on the screen and on the screen. So it's very interesting. Okay, so yeah, too many things I need to know, but now it's timing because we scheduled that we needed to start from from the 9:45. And actually, I put another information. I want to talk, but I said, okay, and I want to do informal because, yeah, when she talked already. But I also want to thank all of you come to join our workshop, and also thanks all of the support, also colleagues to help us, and also I will thanks to all the persons here to help us to promote and also to spread this kind of event news to your friends. And of course, I will thanks to the Helpline and the Shuntian because they also sponsor us for some of the special they give us a special tea and also the bubble tea from Taiwan. So later during the break, you can try the real test of a bubble tea from Taiwan side. It's also offered by the Helpline. Okay, so thanks again and to join us, and I hope you can enjoy today all of the speakers' presentation. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah. So now I would like to introduce the first speakers, Professor Yi-Chang. Yeah, and he is Director General of the Department of Chinese Medicine and Pharmacy in the Ministry of the Healthy and Affairs in Taiwanese government. And he also is the director of the National Research Institute of the Chinese Medicine. We call it NRICN. This is the highest institute for the research and education for the Chinese medicine and the pharmacy in Taiwan. And maybe during the COVID, I think in China you have the Xinbeitang, but in Taiwan we also have the Stone-White Yihao. Okay, so it is kind of the formulas actually based on TCM, and just have different kind of purpose. Because we know the TCM not only kill the virus, they should have another different approach to help people to become stronger and also can become against the virus in the cell. So the Qingguan No is called an NRICN or 101 or RespireAid. Actually, it also gives another clinical trial and also got the further repetition from more than 60 countries of the world. So today, the Professor Shu, yeah, he will introduce this kind of integration of the traditional medicine and also modern medicine from Taiwan's experience, because he is the head of all of the TCM strategy in Taiwan. So he also planned a lot of a very beautiful feature involve the TCM into the medical system, especially like long-term care system for the super aged society in Taiwan. Yeah. So that's well done, Professor Shu. Yeah, to give us the first presentation.
Okay. All the experts, ladies and gentlemen, in Leiden University, it's my privilege to introduce this topic, the integration of traditional medicine and modern medicine from Taiwan's experience. This is the contents of my talk. At first, I will introduce the history of the intersection of traditional and modern medicine, and then Taiwan's experience in the development of integrative medicine, including the achievement of integrative medicine, the research model of NICN 101 and the application, and the basis for this achievement, communication and the medical education between traditional and modern physicians. The rapid and massive intersection of Eastern and Western medicine began from the 16th century till now. European traditional medicine gradually transformed into modern medicine after the Industrial Revolution. After the intersection with modern medicine in Asia, traditional Chinese medicine has also transformed into modern Chinese medicine and development towards the integrated medicine. Chinese herb has been recorded in Western medicine textbooks. This is the 5 books of Western medicine edited by Benjamin Hobson in 1850s. 核心医术5种. And the combination of Chinese and Western medicine is also recorded in TCM books. This is the 医学中东参析录 by Zhang in 1909. The pendulum of medical history is fascinating. From quina, a Western herb used to treat Emperor Kangxi's malaria, to Qinghao, for which Professor Tu Youyou won the Nobel Prize for her research on artemisinin and malaria treatment. This is a change in utilization rate of traditional medicine and modern medicine in past 150 years. I believe that the curves are similar in other Asian countries. There are 5 main factors that affect utilization. During the global COVID pandemic, we successfully created the 5 factors and changed the direction of this curve. This is not only an effort in traditional medicine, but more importantly, the integration with modern medicine can produce such a result. In April 2019, WHO released ICD-11. The new ICD-11 chapter highlights conditions treated by traditional medicine. This enables doctors to integrate dual diagnosis of patients by using both traditional medicine and Western medicine. In December 2024, we have the new WHO TM strategy. This aims to integrate traditional, complementary, and integrative medicine into health systems, and will accelerate the integration of traditional and modern medicine. As we know, this is the COVID-19 epidemic in the world. There are no effective drugs and no vaccine in the left side. A period with high fatality rate. The crisis of modern medicine is precisely the turning point for traditional medicine. This is the modern chemical drug and herb drug R&D model. The time cost to develop a new drug is too long. Looking for all drugs with new indication for COVID treatment is the only way. However, clinical study evaluating several antiviral drugs by WHO has not shown efficacy in 2020. So in order to meet the need of rapid drug development in the pandemic, we established a new research model for drug development with traditional Chinese medicine. It's called a bedside to bench study model. Firstly, obtain the verification from clinical treatment in accordance with standard guidelines. Secondly, transfer to basic research to obtain the preliminary treatment mechanisms and the quality control method. Then authorized pharmaceutical companies to carry out quality management and industrial mass production. And finally, clinically revalidate by the treatment of large numbers of patients and get the real-world evidence. So in order to effectively deal with the large number of patients during the pandemic, traditional Chinese medicine has historically used specific prescriptions for specific disease rather than the syndrome differentiation and treatment for chronic disease. The composition structure of Chinese herb formula is as the following three parts: antivirus, immunomodulation, and body supporting. This is the flowchart of NICM 101 and 102 development. We conduct the standardization and quality control processes to evaluate the effectiveness of the products. Every product of an authorized pharmaceutical manufacturer must pass the verification of this platform before applying for drug EUA or expert license. This is chemical quality control of NICM 101 product. This HPLC fingerprint represents the strict composition control of NICM 101. There are 14 GMP certificated TCM pharmaceutical companies being authorized. The product has been exported to more than 60 countries and been used by 4 million people till now. Through the sampling quality control of post-market products, we confirm that all NICM 101 drugs used in the clinic and hospitals maintain high quality ingredients and bioactivity. From May to August 2021, Taiwan suffered a small wave of epidemics, and it was completely controlled within 3 months. We performed a clinical research and have obtained real-world evidence for NICM 101 and 102 in 9 teaching hospitals. This slide shows the study result of the hospitalized patients with mild and moderate illness. The result shows that all patients taking NICM 101 did not turn into critical illness, while 9.4% patients in the control group turned into critical illness. This slide shows the study result of the patients with severe illness in the intensive care unit of the teaching hospital. The real-world data of NICM 102 showed that 7 of the 123 severe illness patients treated with NICM 102 died, and 27 were in the control group. NICM 102 can reduce the mortality rate of the patient with severe illness by 74%. This slide illustrates the inhibition of SARS-CoV-2 variant spike RBD-ACE2 interaction by NICM 101 and 102. The results show that the significant inhibitory potency by NICM 101 and 102 were unaffected by virus mutation. This slide shows the NICM 101 ameliorated SARS-CoV-2 spike protein S1 induced pulmonary injury and the reduction in lung oxygen saturation in transgenic mice. The right to show this slide is the tissue and the fiber stain. The right to show NICM 102 treatment significantly ameliorated severe lung damage. This is more interesting. The figure on the right shows NICM 102 reduced thrombin induced pulmonary thrombosis, and the left side shows NICM 102 dose-dependently reduced S1 spike protein induced pulmonary thrombosis. So we draw this picture. The picture describes the mechanism of NICM 101 and 102. All of them present a multi-targeting drug for treating COVID-19. It demonstrated that applying scientific research methods and technologies to traditional medicine can reveal not only what it works, but also why and how it works through a rigorous scientific process. Here I make a brief conclusion. There are three major protein, target protein for the antivirus drug. The first one is spike protein. The NICM101 and 102 act on it. The second is 3-zero protease. The Paxlovid and NICM101, 102 act on it. And the third is RDRP, the Molnupiravir and the Remdesivir act on it. So we can find that the two oral antivirus drugs only act on the antivirus effect with one target. The NICM101 and 102 can treat patients with the different disease severity by their multi-targeting effect. This is the research timeline of NICM101 and 102. It only took us 6 months from establishing clinical guideline to obtain drug certification and export to Europe for NICM101. Under the same R&D model, now we have NICM101 for COVID, flu, enterovirus, NICM102 for severe pneumonia, COPD, and pulmonary fibrosis. We also have the NICM201 for Alzheimer's disease, and NICM301 for stroke. So based on the need and the choice of the public in medical and healthcare, it is imperative to integrate Western and Eastern medicine, or traditional and modern medicine. The most critical issue lies in the communication and education among medical practitioners. Doctor and patients want to know, can natural herb medicines and chemical drugs be used together? It is beneficial or harmful? How to choose? So for study the ways of integrating Chinese medicine and modern medicine, we had been holding the Committee of Chinese Medicine and Modern Medicine Dialogue Forum during 2004 to 2008. To lead the medical integration in correct direction, methodology, and procedures by an efficient team, we have positioned this dialogue forum as an expert forum and limited it to discussion from a patient-centered and a scientific standpoint. We held a total of 19 dialogue forums, invited 219 leading experts in the field of Chinese and Western medicine to participate during 2004 to 2008. There are the theme of the 19 forums, including dialogue mechanisms, challenges, patient-centered care, and the professional discussions on specific disease. These are photos from the dialogue forum, this section featuring expert discussions on cancer. And all of the presentations, discussions, and the comments made in the dialogue forums were recorded, edited, and published in the dialogue forums proceedings, volume 1 to 19. In 2009, we planned and implemented a project using the Delphi method to explore consensus on the integration of traditional Chinese and Western medicine, including regarding the roles and the merits of Chinese medicine vis-a-vis Western medicine, and the value values in undergoing clinical trial. The study proceeded smoothly, receives a high response rate for experts, and reached a clear consensus. The final result has been published in a medical academic journal, and you can refer to the details content. Here is an abstract. The ratio of Chinese medicine expert to modern medicine expert is 1:3. More than half of the experts in traditional Chinese medicine and modern medicine hold MD and PhD degree. Half of the modern medicine experts are professors. Half of the traditional Chinese medicine experts are lecturers, and only 1/4 are associate professors or professors. Most Chinese and Western medicine experts come from medical centers. And this is the consensus on integration of Chinese medicine and the modern medicine. So, for example, current diagnosis and treatment in Western medicine are not perfect without defect. Combination use of Chinese medicine and Western medicine drug is an important research topic. So, okay. We also have consensus on the consensus options about disease on the integrated value of Chinese medicine. This is all the topic of the disease agrees with the modern medical experts. The coexistence of traditional and modern medicine exists in countries around the world, and users inevitable need to understand and make choice about it. We believe that patients should not be the pioneers of integration. Doctors, master in both modern and traditional Chinese medicine, using the integrated medicine is the ideal condition. Therefore, we have rebuilt Taiwan's traditional Chinese medicine education system since 1995 and developed the new modern traditional Chinese medicine practitioner education model. This includes the university double major program, single major program, and the postgraduate TCM program, all of which include the basic traditional Chinese medicine and modern medicine, and clinical medicine and the internship content. We also have planned general education and medical humanity education. We have reconstructed the curriculum structure, teaching method, and material for modern traditional Chinese education, Chinese medicine education, including most importantly, digesting and recognizing the content of ancient classics, preserving classical TCM content, and establishing a modern scientific education structure. Like this anatomy, physiology, etiology, pathology, diagnostic treatment in Chinese medicine content. Over the past 30 years, we have rebuilt Taiwan Chinese medicine education system, including construction of scientific literacy education, construct of knowledge and practice integration platform. Most important, competencies-based medical education, CBME, and now establishing co-intractable professional activity, EPAS. To strengthen communication and cooperation between TCM, we are also planning and implementing a curriculum for medical doctor program to learn TCM in their UGY program. Human-centered healthcare focus on three key aspects: the efficacy, safety, and cost. The successful experience and the R&D model of NICM 101 in Taiwan will be a good model for the development of integrative medicine. And this is the advantage of integrative medicine. It combines the advantage of modern disease-centered medicine with the traditional human-centered medicine, with the introduction of high technology and the development of AI and precision healthcare. I think it will bring about a great leap forward in human medical care and healthcare. And this is the final slide. It shows the evolution of the medicine. Now we have current Asia traditional medicine after modernization and the technology application. I think we will get the integrative medicine, mean new modern medicine, or we call medicine, West and East medicine. Okay, this is my brief talk. Thank you for your attention and Happy New Year. Thank you.
All right. Yeah. So now is the next speaker, Dr. Po-Hsun Chen. He's come from the National Yangming Jiaotong University in Taiwan, and his topic also ranges, like I mentioned about before. Yeah, they were turning the courses into the safety, the controversies of the Aristolochic acid in Taiwan in the 2000s. Okay, this issue actually quite serious in the beginning because in the 1993, I mentioned, the journal they published one article. There's some lady they took the herbs with this kind of Aristolochic acid, and they get a big problem with renal disorder, and then all of the people just focus on the toxicity and also safety on the Chinese herbal materials. And this one actually is quite big impact that the people have a bad image about the Chinese herbal medicine. So in this case, in Taiwan, we use it a lot, but how can we change this kind of crisis into another opportunity to let the government to set up the great regulation and also the guidance for the safety of herbs materials in Taiwan. So the Po-Hsun Chen, he will introduce this kind of over details from his personal opinion. And Dr. Po-Hsun Chen now is assistant professor at the School of Chinese Medicine, College of Medicine in National Yangming Jiaotong University in Taiwan. And his PhD degree is from the Center for the History of Science and Technology and also Medicine at the University of Manchester in United Kingdom. He's also the licensed practitioner's training in the biomedical, the physician training in the biomedicine and also traditional Chinese medicine at Chang'an University in Taiwan. So actually he's double major, right? He's double major for Western medicine and Chinese medicine. So let's welcome Dr. Chen.
Introduction for me by Zhang. Okay, so my research now is about the field about the policy and history. That means that how can we learn the lessons from history and to contribute to the policy for nowadays. Okay, so let's start this history, but actually it's not a history because in 2004 in WHO's guidelines, it mentioned that these crises or these tragedies because of the misidentification. But this one just like a phantom hunting all around the TCM field. For example, last year, the Nature they also say, okay, maybe the cancer could also caused by the Aristolochic acid. I will briefly say IIAS. It's just more similar. Okay, so how to open this dark box, the black box about the IIAS, and how Taiwan to encounter, to deal with this crisis and to transform our regulation system. Okay, so because of it's an academic event, so I do some literature review. Most of this research about the regulation, they all focus on the culture of the Western, the biomedicine. So my research tried to contribute the different idea about the cross-cultural regulations in the more modern governmental system. And what's the poison or toxic in the traditional Chinese medicine theories? Like Po, the scholars in Germany, is mentioned that Du is also a classification concept to separate the herbs into 3 categories. And Liu Yan, his new book, and it's a awarded book, it says Du in traditional theories, that it means the power not just to harm, but also could have some curable power, curable efficacies to the disease. Yeah, but however, in the modern regulatory system, we have to, especially for the traditional Chinese medicines, we have to negotiate with the biomedicine doctors or scholars. So we have to make it more simple as the number, the quantification. But this also brings some benefit, because when we can transform the qualitative description into the quantitative number, that means that we could trade off. We could say, okay, if I minus 3 and I can do something to get more 10 scores. So it means that when we use the number, we can negotiate and can talk with broader audience. Okay, so let's back to Taiwan. What's happened, or what the political background in Taiwan during the 1990s to the 2000s? The important one is the globalization and democratization transformed in Taiwan. So that means in PLNT, the nationalism party, they just transform their political system, and people can speak out their opinions. And also in the global scales, the WHO and WTO started to pave the platform for the globalization, not only for the goods, but also for the traditional medicines. So during this content, the IIAS episode, it shows the potential dangers to use in the traditional medicines. So let's start our stories. Okay. Actually, in traditional Chinese medicines, we use some herbs that related to IIAS families 1,000 years ago. But during this 1993, as Professor Zhang just mentioned, this compound became the infamous in the world. So these are the herbs that contain the IIAS. So all the story beginning from this journal paper, the Lancet, it's from the Belgium. It's the neighbor of the Netherlands. So the researchers, they observed a very chaotic phenomenon, is that there are a lot of 50-year-old women. They suffer from the acute renal failure, and they search their just do the epidemiology research. They find they all go to the same saline clinic for make their body more slim. But the research, they figure out that the clinic, they changed the prescriptions during the 1990s. Yeah, so what's happened, they add these 2 things. And they do the further research, they figure out that this one could have different type of herbs in the marketplace. So they just do the it's called the market survey, and they find they misuse these two kinds of the herbs. One is the treasure. This is safety. It's safe, but it's Wang they all pronounce the Fangji in the Europe. So the Wang contain the Aristolochic acid. And after the more and more research, especially in 1999, the Lancet and the NEJM, they confirmed that the IIAS can bind to the DNA sequencing and to cause the mutation in the cell. That means that it could trigger the carcinogen, the cancer in patients. So afterward, in 2000, the BNJ just said that the UK and later the US, they banned all the herbs that contain the IIAS, and also the Aristolochia families herbs also banned it in around the 2000. Okay. Now, so the PI, the project investigator just said, our findings reinforce that the natural things is not away from the risk. Sometimes it contains the risk in its safety things. Okay, and how about Taiwan? Before the 1993, this Yan Huiying, the very famous scholars in Chinese herbs, his books, they also did not separate the Fangji from Fangji and the Fangji. So that means that this Lancet article make as a watershed between this knowledge. Okay, so the government said, okay, in 2003 or 1993, it also said that, okay, maybe it's the wrong use, the misuse of the herbs in the Europe, in the China, so that could cause the adverse effect. However, this conference built up the dramatic scene in this conference. In the conference, 2003, November 1st, there's a Chinese medicine doctor who just the traditional healers, as you mentioned in your questions. He is the traditional healers, and he came out the stage and said, I'm the victim of IIAS. And this one raises a huge crisis in Taiwan, because even though the healers could suffer from these toxic things, and how that alone the public, no background about the medicines. So the government is very quickly to make some decisions. For example, to stop the license of these herbs and to ban the herbs just like the US did. But at that time, some TCM doctors, they opposed to this ban. They said sometimes they use the 是药三分毒, that means that sometimes we treat people just use their poison, their potency to treat disease. Just as the traditional theory said, the du is sometimes is the power to treat disease. And something, someone said 药即是毒, that means that even with the biomedical medicinals, the drugs, they contain the side effects when you use overdose. Yeah, so that means that in that time, the government had different strategies to the practitioners. So how to deal with this? Okay, some Chinese medicine doctors said, oh, this is a bias functions, and this functions is good for treating by the healers. Okay. So this became the very important things, not only at home, but also at work, because at that time, during the 2003, just locates these WHO strategies, and And also Taiwan tried to engage with the WTO, the World Trade Organization, in 2005. So at that time, the government set up a policy called Establishing Medication Safety Environment of Chinese Medicines. So this too is the successful achievement. The first one is the first edition of the Chinese Herbal Pharmacopoeia. It's published in 2004, just a year after 2003. And then in 2005, all the Chinese pharmaceutical factories had to pass the GMP certification. That means that the government is trying to supervise or to oversee the precision protocol. Okay, but there's one earth that encouraged the TCM doctors to fight the policy, the CC. Why? Because in Taiwan, it's a very humid. If you went to Taiwan, it's very humid. So the allergic disease, the allergic rhinitis, or the skin issue, skin rashes, is very popular in Taiwan. And xixin is very useful to treat the allergic, the rhinitis. So if the xixin is also banned, the practitioners can just do some weapons to against the disease. So they find a lot of research, and they find out that in Japan, they noticed that in the classic books say xixin only use the roots, but the cargoes, the earth imported from the mainland China, they use the whole grains. So they separate the different parts of the xixin and to taste the concentration of IIAS, and that also coherent to the classic books that the root is more safe. It is more safer. And why the reason the xixin imported from the mainland China, they use the whole root? They assume that because at that time in the PRC pharmacopoeias, they have to differentiate the different species of xixin. So the most feature is on the leaf and the flowers. Just this one. There are two types of species of xixin, and the way you can differentiate it is according to the leaf and the flowers here. Now, so in the marketplace, in mainland China, they preserve the whole grains, but maybe some merchants, they want to earn more money, so they cut all the grains into for the medicinal use. But the most safer one is the root. Okay, and then the next question is that how do we regulate? If we just follow the EU, the US, then many herbs could be banned as long as we find some new knowledge about toxicities in the earth. So there's a very important key person here is the Wang. He got his doctoral degree from Harvard, the occupational medicine. And at that time, he's the dean of the College of Public Health in National Taiwan University. And he said that research in the National Health Insurance Research Database, this database covers more than 19% of people in Taiwan. It's just like a big database, and all the health and disease information all in that database. And by using the epidemiological methodology, we can prove the efficacy and the safety of herbs through this big data. So in the task force meetings, Yi-Chang, the director of the CCP, just the former director of Professor Sun, he says that okay, so we could the TCM groups and government could not uphold the traditional regime to regulate herbal safety. So they employ the concept of risk and say is that if we should induce the concept of safety and risk assessment in our herbal regulation. And it also have two goals why they induce this concept of risk. The first one is to establish a high quality regulation system to prepare for the impact of WTO. So we can see the policy at home, they also related to the global policies. And in other words, try to adopt the risk in the regulation first to establish the standard of risk governance. Okay, and in the scientific field, the epidemiology also became the words or language to discuss about the toxicity in the earth and also in the traditional medicines. So they use the number to communicate as a dialogue. There are a lot of papers about the herbal toxicity by epidemiology. And even in 2019, the Association of Chinese Medicine in Taiwan, they also recognized this research. They said that nowadays the TCM utilize the epidemiological study to claim the efficacy and the safety of herbs. And he said that this database become the raising materials for the risk of IIAS researchers. Okay, so the conclusion, the first one is that after this crisis, we conceptualize the toxicity of herbs in the epistemology of risk. And then but we can find in the Xixin's case, the traditional Chinese medicine theory also contributed to the regulation and also upholds some room for the Chinese medicine practitioners. And the second one is the risk-based values support the risk-oriented regulatory and policy-making system. And then in the history of the philosophy of science, it means that we started to use a different point of view to understanding the toxicity, not only from the maternal medica, but also from the number of the epidemiology. Okay, thank you.
These speakers I will introduce because we will have a discussion later. Okay, so the first speaker is the Dr. Daniele Buonomo. Okay. Dr. Buonomo, now he holds a PhD in the culture and the social anthropology from the University of Milano, and in Italy, and where he currently serves the lectures in the anthropology of China. And his work has contributed to the ongoing debates on the medical, the prevention, and also the global circulation of the theoretical knowledge. And in 2024, he was awarded the Ricardo Massa Internationalization Award, in the first prize. So today, he gave us the topic is the local words in the global circulations and in the ethnographic reflections on the Chinese medicine in Taiwan. So let's welcome the Dr. Buonomo.
Thank you, Prof. Chen, for inviting me today. I'm really happy and also honored to have the chance to talk with so many experts in Chinese medicine. Of course, thank all of you to be here today. So already introduced me, so we just jump into my presentation. Well, as you can know, Chinese medicine is famous all over the world, right? Now, it's really easy for anyone of you who wants to be treated with Chinese medicine to find a clinic, Chinese medicine everywhere in the world, I would say. But of course, it hasn't been always like that, right? So if we want to identify the first moment for the global recognition of Chinese medicine, I would say it's definitely 1972, when Nixon went to visit China. And since that moment, Chinese medicine started to be more known all over the world, right? More popular, until, as you know, in 2010, acupuncture and moxibustion were included by UNESCO in the representative list of the intangible cultural heritage of humanity. Acupuncture, indeed, is the most used practice among what is called traditional and complementary medicine, right? And the spread of Chinese medicine was even more during the last 10 years. According to WHO in 2014, Chinese medicine was used in 100 countries worldwide. And according to the China's National Medical Products Administration, 10 years later, the number of countries and regions doubled. What about Chinese medicine in Taiwan? Well, we know that Chinese medicine has been brought to Taiwan by Chinese migrants from 60th, 17th century. And the first medical school that has been established in Taiwan was a Western medicine school established by the Japanese government in 1899. And it was also only after the Chinese nationalist government took over Taiwan in 1945 that pushed for the modernization of Chinese medicine. And so the first Chinese medicine school has been established in 1966. I guess it's interesting to focus on 2011, right? Because before 2011 in Taiwan, to become a Chinese medicine doctor, there were two different paths. One was to go to university, right? And after finish the path of university, apply for the license exam. But it was also possible to study Chinese medicine outside universities and apply for a special examination to get the same license of Chinese medicine doctor. It's interesting because in 1989, so more than 30 years after the establishment of the first Chinese medicine school in Taiwan, 98% of the practitioners of Chinese medicine choose the second examination. So this was possible only until 2011, right? After 2011, this is not possible anymore. So for anyone who wants to become a Chinese medicine doctor in Taiwan, has to go to a Taiwanese university. But it's still possible to study Chinese medicine outside university in informal ways. And so the importance of Chinese medicine and the popularity of Chinese medicine, I guess, prompt us to take interest in how Chinese medicine is taught and learned. And here I will rely on two, I guess, important research in this sense, underlying this aspect. The first is Keegan. He underlined the steps of the mode of transmission of Chinese medicine during the Han and pre-Han dynasty. It was interesting in studying the relation from master to disciples. One main aspect was to the copy of text. So the master were giving disciples text to be copied, and the copying of this text, what he called the primary text, the combination of these texts is what they give rise to some of the oldest and most important book of Chinese medicine. For instance, the Huangdi Jing, so the Yellow Emperor in the Canon. The other important study is the ethnography made by Elizabeth Su in the south of China, in Yunnan. She made her research in 3 different contexts, why in which it was possible to study Chinese medicine. And what emerged is the importance of the role, so the context in shaping the knowledge in Chinese medicine, right? So on this premises, my study extends this perspective to contemporary Taiwan, showing how knowledge and practices are redefined and transmitted in both institutional and informal contexts. So those are the questions that guide my research. So does the transmission of knowledge from master to apprentice still exist in contemporary Taiwan? What is the difference between studying Chinese medicine inside or outside universities? And what is the teaching and learning process of Chinese medicine in the modern day Taiwan? So to answer this question, I conduct a 10-month ethnography. The first 6 months I was in Taipei, from October 2022 to March 2023. The first 2 months, I conducted fieldwork in 2 hospital cell phone clinics, and then I decided to focus mainly in 1 clinic. And the second part of my fieldwork was in Taiwan from September to December 2023, and I was at China Medical University. So according to methodology, I'm an anthropologist, as I said before, so I conducted a multi-site ethnography. So I basically followed doctors and practitioners of Chinese medicine in their everyday practice. I both observed medical practices and the way of teaching and learning Chinese medicine, and both I participated in the sense that I followed myself the path of a foreign students who wants to study Chinese medicine, both inside the clinic and the university. And I always conducted semi-structured interviews. And here I'm going to present you briefly the clinic and the university, the clinic on the left and the university on the right. So the clinic, as you can see, I will use name of fantasy, is Dr. L Clinic. He is one of the doctors who took the special examination, so before 2011, so he didn't study at university, right? He is the main doctor, so he visits patients, he decided the treatment, and then the patients, they either go to take formulas or to do the practical part. But the practice are made by the practitioners in another room, and there is 1 Taiwanese and 3 foreigners to do all the practical part. So what is interesting of this clinic, during the last 20 years, more than 150 foreigners went there to study Chinese medicine. From more than 30 countries worldwide, as you can see from the list, half of them from the United States of America, 1/4 from Europe, and a bit less than 1/4 from Asia. Some of them were Chinese medicine doctors. They wanted to deepen the knowledge about formula or technique of Chinese medicine. Other Western medicine doctors, they want to learn something about Chinese medicine. But also new students, they started from scratch, and they eventually came back to their own country to open a clinic of Chinese medicine. And on the other hand, with China Medical University, of course, there are different fields and programs in the university. What I followed was the International Master Program in Acupuncture. It is the only master completely taught in English in all Taiwan, native Chinese medicine, of course. Since it was established in 2008, 35 students enrolled. Actually, this went a couple of years ago data, so you need to update. And most of them, as you can see, are from Southeast Asia. So these students has to be doctors, has to have studied medicine, Chinese medicine, Western medicine, local medicine, right? They need to have this degree to apply for this master. And in this master, 2 of the doctors, teachers, were foreigners, and the other were Thailand. So what emerged from my research is 2 different approaches, 2 different ways of teaching and learning Chinese medicine. In the clinic, I defined this approach, a practical approach based on these 3 pillars, right? So learning by doing, learning by self-studying, and learning by questioning. So learning by doing what? Well, helping the clinic. So mixing formulas, as you can see on the right, or helping with the technique, as you can see on the left. Students are asked for the very first day to help in the clinic. The first thing is help with the moxibustion. Don't know if you know about the moxibustion, but in the clinic, they used to do the moxibustion. They used to put the moxacones on the head of the needle and fire up. And they do this process 3 times, so it's kind of time-consuming process, right? So students start to have to fire them up, the moxacones, and then to change the cones. Of course, the cones is in the head of the needle is inside of the patient, so it's hard to change without pushing the needle inside the body, and then to start to needle the patient. The self-study is really important. The practitioners advise students which book they have to study, and then through the questioning, students can deepen both the knowledge, the theoretical knowledge, and both the practical part. In this process, it was presented to me to be very fixed, made by steps. You first have to mix formulas, then this and that, but actually it was very flexible, dynamic, co-constructed with the practitioners within the clinic. Where I found a more fixed process is in the university. Here, what I discovered is more a theoretical approach, right? Of course, it's a university, so students have to attend classes, there are required classes. What is interesting, I guess, is the observing part. to complete this master, students have to follow 400 hours of clerkship within the hospital university. But during the clerkship, students cannot treat patients. They can basically observe what doctors do. And so through the questioning, also here became really important, both for, of course, classes, but also during the clerkship, because as you can imagine, in the hospital, there are a lot of patients, so doctors goes really fast. Sometimes it's really hard to understand why they're doing what they're doing, right? So this more fixed process. So approaching to the conclusion, what emerged are two modes of transmission of Chinese medicine that I call the modern ancient Chinese medicine mode and the Chinese biomedicine mode. So on one hand, we have the clinic. In the clinic, students can, of course, study also with Dr. L. The way of studying, as Prof. Chen was saying, is stay behind the doctor. So Dr. L visit patients, take the pulse. So students observe how he visit patients. They take the pulse eventually after him. They check which formulas and which treatment he prescribed. But all the theoretical part and all the practical part has been taught by the practitioners. So in this sense, I find it to be a more globalized and modern version of the old apprenticeship way of studying Chinese medicine. On the other hand, with the university, which is really evidence-based Chinese medicine. So for instance, the acupoints are taught, of course, based on the scientific literature, but also on the experiments they made on lab with mice. And also on the teaching of the physiopathology of Chinese medicine really goes in this direction. So different ways of application of and transmission of Chinese medicine, both between different contexts, as you can imagine, but also within the same context. Well, we'll have later speech of Dr. Shai, but you already underlined, right, the plurality of Chinese medicine. So I guess my case study examined how this plurality is produced and negotiated in the contemporary Taiwan, particularly across institutional and informal settings. What emerged, different practitioners as different ways of teaching Chinese medicine related to different ways of understanding Chinese medicine. This is why I use this title for this sentence, for this, slides, is a reframe of a Latin sentence, right? Faber est quisque fortuna is the Latin. This is Faber est quisque medicina. It means anyone is the creator of his own medicine, right? And this is why I propose to use Wittgenstein concept of family resemblance to talk about Chinese medicine. Wittgenstein, to define what a game is, he gave example of games, right? And I guess it is something that it can be done with Chinese medicine. So different example of different Chinese medicine, so broad, so vast, so hybrid, are now the shapes the Chinese medicine take in the contemporary world. And in conclusion, from research emerged how Taiwan can be seen as a key site for the global circulation of Chinese medicine. The last one, working. It's not working anymore. Well, thank you. It's the thank you slide, but it's not working.
Found these, and I found these pictures of the body in there, and these are very different pictures than almost anything else I had seen before, and that set me off. Kind of like that opened a Pandora's box for me, which I still haven't been able to close. But out of this comes the kind of research and the kind of thinking that led me to argue for thinking with Chinese medicine rather than just thinking about. So if we look at if we look at Western medicine and science, then it's taken for granted that we think with both of them. What I mean by thinking with, here's a quote from Nature Medicine, an important biomedical journal. You know, the essence of science is to change the way we think about the world and about us and everything around us. So it's really taken for granted. I don't have to give you too many examples of how that works, but you need to look at any movie
There are people taking medicines, and it helps us to medicine helps us to understand how the world is and how it functions. But when it comes to Chinese medicine, we don't really think with Chinese medicine, but we think about Chinese medicine. What do I mean by thinking about? So it's something that is continuously in need of, is either a source for other practices, like for instance biomedical practices. So here is Tu Yo-Yo, when she says Artemisinin is a gift from old Chinese medicine. So the real world nowadays is modern medicine, whatever that is, and Chinese medicine is something old from which we can take things. But even if we think, practitioners of Chinese medicine, the world of Chinese medicine is something that needs to be translated into kind of like the idioms and the worldviews and the ways of life with which we are more familiar. Here is I've just given you a few examples taken not randomly, but kind of like through a search on the internet. So here's from a practitioner's website. Qi is no longer just Qi. It has to be explained as, how the mitochondria work. Or here is from a medical acupuncture journal. Okay, Qi needs to be explained through quantum physics or modern nuclear physics. It cannot just stand on its own. And even not just in the natural sciences or from the practitioner sides, but also from the side of the medical humanities, Chinese medicine is something that needs to be explained. So here I could give you many examples. I've just taken one here from Po-Hsun. To be clear, Unschuld applies this concept also to Western medicine or to any kind of medicine. But from this perspective, what medicine is for him just a reflection of certain more important economic and cultural substructures. But again, it's something that needs to be explained. And I cannot excuse myself from that. When I wrote my first book, this is first ethnography of Chinese medicine in contemporary China. I also really used a paradigm from science studies to explain how Chinese medicine in the present works. That was a strategic move for me at the time, which I think didn't work out in the way I really wanted it. So I want to say, want to move personally. I want to move away from this thinking about Chinese medicine, thinking with. I will show you why I think it's important to think with Chinese medicine and not about. But it's also very interesting that those people who make a real point that they want to think with China tend to leave out Chinese medicine. It's very interesting. I could give you many examples, but François Julien, he's a very famous sinologist and philosopher who's written more than 30 books about thinking with China, so to speak. And in these books, he thinks obviously with philosophy, but he thinks also with calligraphy, with painting, with certain technologies, with warfare, with nutrition. And it would be very obvious to put Chinese medicine in there, but Chinese medicine is almost completely lacking from this engagement. And I could give you, as I said, many more examples. So why should we think with Chinese medicine? So there's at least three important reasons. First of all, it creates a level playing field. Otherwise, Western medicine is by definition something different and more important. I think also thinking with Chinese medicine makes Chinese medicine more meaningful to the contemporary world. And I think putting Chinese medicine back into efforts to think about the world helps us to, as long as we have Chinese thinking with, it's a theoretical enterprise. But once we put medicine in there, it becomes thinking with, and I will show you that through a very practical case. is kind of taken down from the ivory tower of philosophy to real life. So how can we go about thinking with Chinese medicine? So the normal route of thinking about is there's Chinese medicine, which is a problem that needs to be explained. How do we explain it? We use Western science or the humanities, and then we provide an explanation of what Chinese medicine is or how it functions at a certain point in time. So what I want to do as a kind of like counter strategy, let's take some unresolved question to which Western science and humanities haven't got an answer yet. Let's see what Chinese medicine has to say about it, and take it from there. So one of the kind of very trendy areas in the world at the moment is neurology and cognitive science. But cognitive science has like any scientific discipline has debates, and one of the debates within cognitive science is how does our mind work in relationship to the body and the world. And the dominant paradigms in cognitive science are called cognitivism, computationalism, body-mind dichotomy. The really idea is the brain is like a computer and that's how it works. But there are other theorists who have theories of what they call the embodied mind, that the mind is not just in our brains, but it's in our entire body, that it is very much tied to the world outside. You cannot separate the functioning of the human mind from the world outside. And interestingly enough, in recent years, or over some time now, cognitive theorists, these are particular philosophers and people who work in China studies, but also they have tried to connect these ideas in cognitive science to Chinese philosophy, particularly the work of a very well-known Chinese philosopher called Wang Ming. I'll just give you some references. And the person on the right, Chen Qi-Keng, I don't know how you would pronounce it in Taiwanese, but he's actually based in Taiwan, so there's another connection to Taiwan here. So just to give you some quotes from their work. So contemporary cognitive scientists and philosophers of mind would do well to have a closer look at Chinese understandings of the mind. In Chinese medicine, the mind here is very closely associated with the heart. And we will see later on why that is important and how that plays out and how that connects this thinking to medicine. So the idea is here that, in this an active mind, in this embodied mind, in the extended version of the mind, it's really not just the brain, as I said, that computes, but there's what they call sensing delivers an action-based grip upon the world. So we think in the process of acting and engaging with the world. And Wang Ming has a lot to say about that. He has various theories about it. And that's what makes these philosophers very interested in Wang Ming. I haven't got the time here to go into detail into Wang Ming's philosophy, but just show here the connections. And when they want to, so these thinkers talk about Wang Ming's philosophies and connect it to his theory of the heart mind, but then they need to bring it back into the present. And one of the examples they use is what they call sports intelligence. So when Wang Ming talks about how our mind works, they think one of the ways to help us understand that is by looking at sports intelligence. What they mean by that is when a person, a sports person, and I want to give you an example. As Winder knows, I'm a very keen cyclist. So I'm giving you an example from cycling. And the example comes from the last kilometer of a stage from the Tour de France. And what you should try to pay attention to, if you can, it's a video clip. Pay pay attention to this person called Jasper Philipsen. He's Belgium, so unfortunately not Dutch. And he's this person here, and he's going to win the sprint. So you just even if you don't know anything about cycling, what is happening here is these people go at 65 kilometers an hour at top speeds, really, and they do this after 4 hours of cycling already, so they're physically tired. They have to struggle for space. As you see, 2 accidents almost occurring. They have to, an important thing is if you want to one of these sprints, you have to conserve your energy as much as possible. And one of the ways you do that is you sit behind other cyclists. If you do that, you save about 30% of your energy. But obviously you cannot stay behind it's called staying behind a wheel. So you have to stay behind this wheel and switch maybe from one rider to the next rider as you move forward, as this person here is moving forward. And you have to do all of this, as you in incredible stressful situations, and you can never do that, by imagining that you are computing this. You're thinking about it, you're looking at something, think about it, then take a decision. These kind of things, that's what is meant by sports intelligence. So the idea is here that this kind of cognitive interacting with the world cannot just be explained as a brain taking these kind of decisions. And the issue, however, is it makes a lot of sense. And you could also use a football player, or you could use a basketball player, etc., etc. But in the Ming Dynasty, when Wang Yangming was contemplating his understanding of the heart mind, of cognition, there was he didn't play football, he didn't cycle, he didn't do any of those kind of things. However, they had the people like him were very well read in the medical literature, and medicine was quite important for him. And it's very interesting that in all these discussions of and in all of these attempts to link Wang Yangming's philosophies to cognitive science, medicine again doesn't occur at all. Even though, as I will show you now, the entire foundation of Wang Yangming thinking is rooted in medical understandings of how the heart mind works. And actually, it comes out, it's rooted in the understanding of the heart mind in Chinese medicine, particularly in the Huangdi Neijing. But in the Huangdi Neijing, you have not a single conception of the heart mind, but you have at least two models. And one model is that the heart, as a physical organ, stores what in Chinese medicine is called the spirits. And the spirits are kind of representation of what we would call cognition. And the other model is that the mind is the ruler of the body. So in the first model, the mind is embodied in the heart, and in the second, the mind rules the body. So if you look at Neo-Confucian philosophy, Wang Yangming's philosophy is very much a critique of an earlier philosophy by an even more famous philosopher called Chu Xi. And Chu Xi, again, that is not very much discussed at all. He's famous for his thinking of what is called in Chinese thinking Li Xue, or thinking of patterns. But let's just read what he says. He says, all things that have a heart, their heart must be hollow. So he knew about the anatomical structure of the heart. Such are the chicken hearts, the pork hearts in our food. And by analogy things, the human heart is also hollow. He says, in these hollow spaces are contained the many ideas and patterns. And his philosophy is these ideas and patterns, once we have understood how the world works and we have stored these ideas and patterns in our minds, in the hollow spaces of our heart. From that, we then develop actions. But Wang Yangming is critical of this idea. So he says, in the same way that these inactive cognitive scientists are critical of the mind as a computer. So he says, the mind is not a lump of flesh and blood. So he clearly rejects that the mind shin, is located in the heart shin. Yes, okay? Instead, he says the mind exists wherever there is what he calls a churjie, which I have translated as discernment. It's a kind of wherever we perceive and make decisions about and with this perception. So he says, for instance, what is seen and heard through our eyes and ears, or the awareness of pain or itching in our hands and feet, all of this discernment is the mind. So if you go back to the cyclist, to Jasper Philipson, he's clearly not just thinking just with his brain. He's also feeling the wind, he's feeling his legs, he's feeling his muscles. He has got kind of like an unaware, trained awareness of the other cyclists around him, and that's what allows him to make the decisions that lead him to winning that sprint. So we see here first. So the first thing is that we can see here this very idea of how Wang Yangming thinks about, and also before Chu Xi, how these Neo-Confucian philosophers think about the mind, is rooted in medical understandings of how the mind works, and in disputed medical understandings of how the mind works. So, but we can take that even further, or a little bit further. When in Wang Yangming's understanding, when your mind functions very, very well, when you have this perception that Jasper Philipson in this particular sprint displays, because he obviously is very good at it, because that's how he wins the sprint. Wang Yangming calls that forming one body with the 10,000 things. So one Wu Et. So it's basically, let's assume Jasper Philipson wins the sprint because he can form one body with the whole environment around him. And again, these conceptions of what it means to form one body with the world, Neo-Confucian philosophers didn't think them through sports philosophy, but again, or sports metaphors, they again thought them through medical understandings and medical philosophers. So forming one body means Ren. I will talk a little bit more about Ren in a second. Entering into all things. That's when we ourselves, our Qi, enters into the 10,000 things. And he says it refers to the principles of the mind circulating through the interpenetrating networks of arteries and veins, so that nothing is not reached. So here the understanding is and that our connection to the world around us is very similar to the way our own bodies works, in the same way that our qi and blood is circulating in Chinese medicine through our channels and networks. There's an idea that this extends to the world around us. So in a certain way that the mind goes out of ourselves into the world around us, and when it penetrates what he calls all things. And when we do that, we become Ren. Now, Ren is a very complicated concept. It's usually perceived of as a virtue. It consists of two people. The character consists of two people. So when we do Ren, we connect to other people, and we consider other people as ourselves. And when we consider other people as ourselves, we become benevolent to them, because we are nice to ourselves, so we're nice to other people. So one of the translations of Ren is benevolence. But you see here that in this understanding of benevolence, benevolence is not an attitude that we hold in our mind, but benevolence is a way of being connected into the world in a particular way. And I want to give you now a case from my own clinical practice to see where this kind of thinking with Chinese medicine can lead us. So this patient came to me through another practitioner. So it's a 27-year-old woman, and she ostensibly came because she had alopecia. Alopecia means when your hair is hair on your head starts to fall out, and she had this problem. That was, but in the case or in the course of taking the case, there were clearly some other background issues. So one of these issues was PCOS, which means polycystic ovary syndrome. It's a gynecological disorders, it's a hormonal disorders that leads to usually problems with a woman's menstrual cycle, maybe with fertility. And one of the symptoms, not in all women with PCOS, but in many, is hirsutism, which means that growth of hair on the body. So this lady had a very, very severe hirsutism. She had she needed to shave herself on a daily basis, both in her face and also on her body, on her breast and on her abdomen. So there was a very, very, very thick growth of hair, which of course made her very self-conscious and self-aware. But there was an even more serious problem, something that the Japanese always have great names for stuff, called hikikomori, which is in Western psychology is often more labeled as social isolationism, because of certain issues in her life, which are not really important for us here. She had withdrawn from the world. She had the only social interaction at this moment in time she had was her Chinese medicine practitioner. Otherwise, she had no more social interactions. She just basically stayed at home, full of anxieties, unable to interact, totally unable to interact with the world. Now, of course, this person was what we in Germany we would call durchtherapiert, which means she had gone through any kind of therapy that you might think of. So including hormonal therapies, psychotherapies, various drug therapies, various kinds of Chinese medicine, all kind of stuff. And nothing had really been able to help her. So if we think this situation with Chinese medicine, so then we can see here that this person obviously has lost the ability to run, to form a connection with the world around her, socially, not with people, but also with things. And as we learned before, Ren has something to do when our qi that flows through us extends to the world outside. And if you think with Chinese medicine here, one of the things that's very obvious is that she has a lot of hair on her body. And in Chinese medicine, without going into too much theory here, this excess growth of hair on her body is a physical manifestation of what this Chinese philosopher Zhang called the qi not being able to extend outwards. So it's a sign that there's something blocked. So what I did, I just gave her a Chinese medicine formula that aims at unblocking the surface of her body through which nothing could flow anymore. And I used and these are herbs that you might think of as facilitating perspiration. And these are very simple herbs. They are herbs like mulberry leaf, peppermint leaf, simple herbs like that. And the change in this person was absolutely amazing. Within a relative short space of time, what happened is the growth of hair reduced, and she started to, little by little, interact with the world. After about half a year, she really started to go out again to socially interact. One of her dreams that she always had was to become a motorcyclist. So she took the license of being to be able to drive a motorcycle. She has a boyfriend now. You know, she dresses in leather jackets. She's part of a motorcycle group, etc., etc. So thinking with Chinese medicine that's what I wanted to show you with this case. It's not just a matter of helping us. You know, on the one hand, what I wanted to show you is the Chinese philosophy. A lot of Chinese philosophy is deeply rooted in medical understandings of the world. So it's a thinking with medicine about the world, just in the same way that we think with biomedicine about the world. So one of the things I'm interested in is recovering this thinking with the world. But why should we do that? As I said before, it's not a theoretical exercise. It's a practical exercise. It's something that helps us hopefully become better practitioners of Chinese medicine. But obviously here, this case shows you that the theories about these more philosophical theories or ideas about forming one body with the world around us are not just theories in people's head. They have something to do with how the world really is. And in order to understand how the world really is, Chinese medicine can help us. But that means thinking with Chinese medicine, not just about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Zhang and Wang, for organizing the workshop, and thank you all for being here. And it's an opportunity for me to connect my personal experience with my research, because I grew up with a family of Chinese traditional medicine practitioners, including my grandfather, my aunt, my sister, my brother-in-law. And I also have co-edited a volume called Socializing Medicine, Health Humanities, and East Asian Media. So I'm trying to study the social and the medial dimensions of the medicine. And because I'm not professionally trained, I only have superficial knowledge of medicine. So I look forward to your questions and suggestions. Yeah, thank you. I hope it's not too long. So this paper traces the cinematic life of acupuncture anesthesia, 针刺麻醉, in the 1970s, examining how this emblematic technique of traditional Chinese medicine circulated across socialist and transnational screens. In the PRC, People's Republic of China, scientific and educational films such as Acupuncture and Anaesthesia and the fiction film Song of Acupuncture Treatment. So it's two films framed acupuncture anesthesia as both scientific experiment and everyday medical practice. Beyond China, documentaries made by foreign visitors, including One Man's China, made by Felix Green, and Zhongguo by Antonioni, The Other Half of Sky, a China memoir by Shirley MacLaine and Claudia Weil, as well as The Barefoot Doctor of Rural China by Daniele, filmed acupuncture anesthesia through their aesthetic and political lenses. Rooted in a cosmology that understands the body, the human body, as an organic whole animated by dynamic balance, acupuncture was mobilized in Mao era China as an affordable, accessible, and effective medical practice aligned with conditions of scarcity and the mass-line imperatives of serving the people. Its clinical development and cinematic display embodied the socialist promise of mass medicine, 群众医疗.
by foregrounding acupuncture anesthesia as a site where medicine, ideology, and geopolitics intersect. This paper examines how silver needles on a silver screen crystallize the aspirations and contradictions of China's socialist experiment. This practice would later accrue a heavy ideological burden after the 1980s, captured in Zhang Ren's pointed question, quote, "Is acupuncture anesthesia truly a major modern innovation by Chinese medical workers, or is it a distorted byproduct of the Cultural Revolution?" End quote. Yeah, it's funny. The previous speaker was talking about Ren, so this author's name is Zhang Ren. In A History of Acupuncture Anesthesia in China, published in 1989, Zhang Ren situates the emergence of acupuncture anesthesia within a long history of pain management in Chinese medicine. The use of acupuncture to alleviate pain can be traced back at least 2,000 years. From the medical classics such as the Huangdi Neijing and Sun Simiao's Yingji Tianjin Yaofang. These texts articulate key concepts such as Zhen Qi, that's needle qi, and De Qi, that the cessation of obtaining qi, providing a phenomenological vocabulary for bodily sensation and therapeutic efficacy. Yet, despite this epistemic richness, acupuncture did not develop into a sustained surgical anesthetic practice. Under the dominance of Western biomedicine in the late Qing and Republican periods, Chinese medicine, including acupuncture, was largely marginalized. This historical impasse was decisively ruptured after the founding of the PRC. In 1950, the first National Health Conference formally endorsed the principle of, quote, uniting Chinese and Western medicine, end quote, creating an institutional and ideological climate conducive to renewed experimentation. Within this socialist framework, surgeons and acupuncturists began collaborating in the early 1950s. By 1955, acupuncture had been extended from post-operative pain relief to a range of small and medium-sized surgical procedures. Standardized protocols emphasize poems such as Hehu, this is Hehu, and Zhu San Li, this is the top right. So they supplemented by poems near the surgical site. Applied at on-site of post-operative discomfort, acupuncture delayed the emergence of pain and significantly reduced its intensity. Subsequent investigations proposed neurological explanations, suggesting that needling could generate inhibitory zones through negative induction within the central nervous system. Acupuncture thus crossed a critical threshold from treating pain as a symptom to intervening within surgical processes, layering the theoretical and practical groundwork for acupuncture anesthesia, now understood to encompass patient safety, physiological stability, and optimal surgical conditions. The decisive acceleration came in 1958 amid the Great Leap Forward, when China's medical system underwent a wave of technological revolution that encouraged bold experimentation. Mao Zedong's declaration that, quote, Chinese medicine is a great treasure house and should be earnestly explored and elevated, end quote, catalyzed a nationwide surge of interest in traditional Chinese medicine. Simple, accessible, and effective acupuncture therapies were widely adopted across clinical departments, achieving notable results in the treatment of appendicitis, deafness, muteness, and color blindness. It was in this climate that acupuncture was first formally applied to surgical anesthesia. At Shanghai's First People's Hospital, the young otolaryngologist Yi Huizhu discovered that needling the hewu could immediately relieve post-operative pain following tonsillectomy, enabling patients to eat without discomfort. A review of 47 cases reported an 80% success rate using acupuncture instead of pharmacological anesthesia. Crucially, researchers articulated a conceptual shift. Acupuncture did not induce complete anesthesia, but elevates the pain threshold, called the tongyu, producing analgesia rather than insensibility. By December 1955, clinical validation had reached an unprecedented scale. A classified report issued by the State Science and Technology Commission documented 186 long resections performed under acupuncture anesthesia in Shanghai, with a success rate exceeding 95.5%. Patients remained fully conscious, physiologically stable, free of drug reactions, and recovered rapidly. This attributes conscious cooperation, minimal physiological disturbance, and rapid recovery became defining features repeatedly emphasized in both medical discourse and cinematic representation. And now I want to show you a short clip from the 1972 scientific and educational film called Acupuncture Anesthesia. Unfortunately, it doesn't have English subtitles, but I can briefly explain. And also because it was made during the Cultural Revolution, the voiceover narration has a very high-pitched sound, you can hear.
令人热情鼓励医生，只有在社会主义时代才能有这样的关系，只有在针刺麻醉下还能有这样的配合。为了避免损伤脑瘤周围的神经，认真细致地把肿瘤分切成一小块一小块的摘除。
Removing brain tumor.
就在这时，一直很平稳的血压升高了。
High blood pressure. And they adjust acupuncture technique.
医务人员及时的采取措施，血压也就渐渐的正常了。 肿瘤全部拿完了，但手术的效果怎样呢？检查一下。好，老刘，现在要检查一下，你动动眼睛。很好，你再张张嘴。也很好，你还有什么感觉？
我蛮好。
好，检查结果情况正常。好，面神经、后颅脑神经没有受损伤，只有针刺麻醉，病人始终清醒，才能当场检验出手术的效果来。要一丝不苟，才能取得。
Okay. So this scientific documentary, Acupuncture Anesthesia, crystallized these features in its depiction of a brain tumor operation performed on a worker patient, old Liu. The film foregrounds the surgical process itself, the careful adjustment of needling techniques, the patient's full consciousness without visible pain, and his active cooperation with medical staff. This cooperation clamps the temporal gap between intervention and verification, allowing surgical outcome to be immediately assessed. Equally significant is the social relations between the patient, old Liu, and the medical workers, grounded in socialist public ownership rather than profit or commodification. Care is structured by mutual trust rather than contractual calculation. Physicians do not fear legal liability, and the patient is not treated as an object of intervention, but recognized as a class subject and comrade. Although the voices of the patient and the doctor are likely dubbed a technical constraint of documentary production at the time, the visual rhetoric affirms a presence, dignity, and agency. And Zhang records that by February 1966, Shanghai medical workers had completed 28 brain tumor removals under acupuncture anesthesia with a 100% success rate, lending historical weight to these cinematic claims. By the mid-1960s, acupuncture anesthesia had achieved major breakthroughs in thoracic, neurosurgical, cardiac, and abdominal operations. Clinicians widely agreed that 得气 or obtaining qi, the embodied sensations signaling effective needling, was central to reliable anesthetic outcomes. Despite acknowledged limitations, including incomplete analgesia, individual variability, and procedural complexity, acupuncture anesthesia was increasingly systematized as a routine anesthetic method. By 1970, accumulated surgical cases had reached more than 50,000, of which more than 24,000 were performed after June 1966, nearly 6 times the total of 8 years prior to the Cultural Revolution. In 1971, Xinhua News Agency announced to the world under the headline, guided by Chairman Mao's proletarian revolutionary line, Chinese medical and scientific workers successfully create acupuncture anesthesia. That acupuncture anesthesia was safe, simple, economical, and effective, reporting that over 400,000 patients had undergone surgical using the technique. These announcements coincided with intensified international attention. By the 1980s, more than 30 countries had conducted follow-up trials. Acupuncture anesthesia had been applied to over 100 surgical procedures and demonstrated relative stability in 20 to 30 common operations, earning recognition from the World Health Organization, and foreign documentaries lingered on scenes acupuncture anesthesia as a visual proof of socialist innovation. And Daniele mentioned the Nixon visit in 1972, and there was a New York Times columnist and through this treatment in China, and he wrote an article in the New York Times and also kind of promoted its popularity in the West. And this is a documentary from the British journalist.
Of course, the most dramatic medical breakthrough has been the discovery 3 or 4 years ago that acupuncture could be used as an anesthetic in operations. More than 500,000 major operations of this kind have now been performed. No one, even in China, quite understands how it works. Practice in this case has moved ahead of theory. It is quite common for patients to be given fruit during the operation to quench their thirst. I watched a dozen or more major operations in which the patients, with no sign of pain, remained quite conscious and could talk with Yi. It was an utterly astonishing experience. This was a relatively minor operation for a hernia. In the West, a general anesthetic would normally have been given. The patient was able to help himself off the operating table. I had a brief talk with him. You've just come off the operating table. How do you feel? Quite comfortable. Did you have any pain during the operation? No, not much pain. And there's some discomfort at all or not? No. Did you get thirsty?
Okay. Okay. So by 1974, China had completed over 1 million surgeries under acupuncture anesthesia, a figure that nearly doubled to 2 million by 1979. High success rates, such as the 95% reported for thyroid surgeries from 1975 to 1976, reinforced its clinical legitimacy. The first national academic conference on acupuncture and acupuncture anesthesia convened in Beijing in 1979, with over 600 domestic and 150 international delegates from more than 30 countries and regions, and with over half of presented papers devoted to acupuncture anesthesia, affirmed its central position within both Chinese medical research and global discourse. And finally, I want to show you a fiction film made in 1974. It's adapted from a stage play created by Shanghai Chest Hospital Amateur Culture Creation Group, written by medical workers. Okay. Sorry.
欧阳师傅，感觉怎么样？很好。罗医生，你也参加了今天的手术？不，是同志们给我做了一次大手术。针刺麻醉手术是新生事物，只有经过无产阶级文化大革命，才有今天更高的发展。我感谢毛主席的革命路线。 给了我第二次生命。这实现了毛主席对工农兵的巨大关怀。我们要坚决执行毛主席的革命路线，更好地为工农兵服务，让这古老的银针为人类做出更大的贡献。
Oh, sorry. So the fiction film, some of acupuncture treatments, distills these developments into an explicitly ideological narrative adapted from a stage play created by Shanghai Chest Hospital Amateur Culture Creation Group and written by medical workers themselves. The film functions less as medical drama than as a story of socialist transformation. It staged the remodeling of bourgeois medical professionals whose pursuit of personal fame and gain is subjected to critique, echoing Mao Zedong's critique of the Ministry of Health as an urban bourgeois health department, 城市老爷卫生部. Through re-education, the once elitist doctor declared that Dr. Luo in the film, that, quote, comrades have performed a major operation on me, signaling a moral and ideological rebirth. The film celebrates proletarian feelings as an effective alignment with workers, peasants, and soldiers. In a striking sequence, the woman doctor has acupuncture needles on her own body to ensure the safety of acupuncture anesthesia for the worker, old Yang, insisting that she would rather insert 1,000 or 10,000 needles into herself than makes a single wrong insertion into a patient. This gesture echoes historical accounts recorded by Zhang, including cases in which medical workers subjected themselves to hundreds of needle insertions to locate effective anesthetic points. Here, bodily self-sacrifice becomes both ethical proof and political pedagogy, binding medical practice to socialist virtue. In its optimistic ending, the film proclaims acupuncture anesthesia as a new medical form born to serve the working people, one that mobilized an ancient silver needle for humanity's collective future. Yet the status of acupuncture anesthesia shifted dramatically in the 1980s with the rise of a farewell to revolution sentiments and renewed admiration for Western capitalist modernity in elite and official discourse. Acupuncture anesthesia was increasingly dismissed as unscientific and compromised by its association with the radicalism of the Cultural Revolution.
Ling, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I think we have to wrap up a little bit. Otherwise, I don't think there's enough time for you.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Sure. I'm almost done. Okay. So there were controversy in the 80s, and also the claim generated widespread confusion and skepticism abroad. For instance, West Germany's Der Spiegel, for instance, proclaimed in its 50th issue entitled Terrifying Pain, Acupuncture Anesthesia, a fraud. The myth of acupuncture has collapsed. Yet a more nuanced reassessment gradually emerged. So there's some scientific explanation of acupuncture anesthesia I have to skip. So to conclude, the cinematic life of acupuncture anesthesia reveals more than a medical technique. It illuminates a socialist epistemology of care in which science, labor, affect, and politics were deeply entangled. On the silver screen, the silver needle became a medium through which China projected an alternative modernity, one grounded in collective bodies, endogenous balance, and mass participation. Though later disavowed and reconfigured, acupuncture anesthesia endures as a historical archive of socialist aspiration, reminding us that medicine, like cinema, is never merely technical, but always ideological, affective, and profoundly social. Thank you for your attention.
For organizing this conference and for your kind invitation, and also for Wei for your very well organized work for this. So as you can see, we have today, this morning, we're first to see what's going on in Taiwan, and then moving from Africa now back to Europe again. So talking about the Chinese medicine and its challenges in entering EU market. So from history perspective, I would like to show a landscape on the traditional medicine worldwide. So you can see the Chinese medicine started very earlier, so from the 700 BC, they have described Chinese medicine. What is quite interesting is in Tang Xinxu. So this is in 600 AD, the first Chinese materia medica book has been established and published. When you move for the world from of course, from Asian to Ayurvedic medicine and back to let's say, from ancient Egypt's medicine, then to Europe. So you can see the first European pharmacopoeia, it was established in 1498. So from whole landscape, you can see materia medica from plant or from medicine, and whole globally, they are going quite diverse. But Chinese medicine is one of the old medicine worldwide. So when you look at what is here, the ancient Chinese medicine, the reason I'm listed here is because we are talking about the Chinese medicine in Taiwan and also the global practice. So here you can see the ancient Chinese medicine take about 1,000 years. They developed into the traditional Chinese medicine, traditional Korean medicine, and Kenpo medicine. So in fact, in Asia, we have very different kinds of medicine, but they are more or less related to each other because of its ancient roots. So from the modern societies, because in Europe, so most of the time the people thinking about the traditional Chinese medicine, maybe you will see the picture on the left corner. So they think this is a Chinese medicine, but in reality, in fact, it's going in time, it's modernized. So the picture upper near, I show, in fact, the first medicine we registered in 2012. That is the Diao. This is the material, it's growing there with good agricultural practice. The whole industrial production nowadays, so from the clean plant species, cutting them, making extraction, and then spray dry, and to different formula to capsule, tablet, and granule. And here I also see the Shun Tiantang is also represented here. I still remember at the beginning of 2000, I went to Taiwan. We have visited Shun Tiantang. So at that time, I already noticed they actually produce medicine in good manufacture practice style. So which is very modern and in going along the way as Europe produces traditional herbal medicine as well. So here I would like to show a picture about what's going on for the Chinese medicine in China. So started, let's say, from 1949 to 2023. So you can see the Chinese medicine industry, it started to about in 1985, 2.9 billion market size, till 2023 is 119 billion market size. So you can see the size of the market is dramatically growing, which in fact also reflects the regulation about the medicine in China. So they start to have the initial phase of scientific process for regulation of Chinese medicine. They end up to establish the regulation process, and also nowadays they also think about the regulatory sciences, which is also in agreement with FDA's regulation in the United States. So in fact, the Chinese medicine, they go through all the way. They want to have it being regulated and also in good practice way. When you look at in Europe, so in fact, this is Michael Henrich from UCL in London's publication. They also show the herbal medicine European perspective. In fact, you can see that Germany is one of the biggest herbal medicine market. It's about a manufacturing price of about 1.3 billion euro, and of course then followed by Italy, by France, by Russia, and by all the rest of the European countries. So from here you can see not only the Chinese medicine play an important role in healthcare, but in fact the European herbal medicine also play a very important role in healthcare. So how can we bridge them? Let's say the Chinese medicine, they can come to Europe to function either as medicine or as a food supplement. So from that perspective, we need to know the regulation, what's taking on in China or in Europe. So in Europe, we have two very important regulation organizations. So one is about the EDQM, European Director for Quality and Medicine and Healthcare. So they are giving the scientific evidence for quality control. And then we have European Medicine Agency, which they provide efficacy and safety evidence. So the both organizations play in concert for regulated medicine, not only for herbal medicine, for any kind of medicine within the European landscape. So I want to give a very short introduction about the herbal medicine and its regulation. So this is looks like complicated, but you can think this is a building. So it's from basis and to go all the way upstairs to the market. So in the medicine, we can have, let's say, we can have a traditional medicine, we have well-established medicine, we can have new medicine. New medicine indicates the medicine has to go through the preclinical phase, clinical phase 1 to 3. And well-established use indicate the medicine which has been already on the market for 10 years. Then you can also register the medicine without clinical studies. Then we have last category. In fact, this category maybe most reflect the traditional Chinese medicine. It's called the traditional herbal medicine registration. If you have sufficient length of time of traditional use outside China or outside Europe or in China or in Taiwan, or you have also 15 years traditional use within the EU, you can register your medicine without conduct clinical studies. However, the quality is still have to under the EU GMP standard. So here I want to show a very old picture till 2016, shows in EU how many traditional medicine has been registered. You can see in the 2005 is a new regulation in power, and then there is a 7 years transition period. So in 2011, all the herbal medicine, all the traditional medicine, they have to register it. Otherwise, they will have to be taken away from the market. And the follow, you can see there is a peak in 2011 because of this transition period of EU regulation. And follow that, you can see it's going steady, and till now it's about every year we have about 100 new herbal medicine being registered as a medicinal product. But in reflect to that, it's very important to see the type of indication, because of traditional herbal medicine, you cannot say this product according to EU law. You cannot say this product is for treat cancer or treat hypertension, because it has to be OTC, have self-medication. Therefore, you can say most common medicine product is for cough and cold, for mental stress, for gastrointestinal disorders, and sleeping problems, and boost your immune systems. So these are commonly registered indications for traditional herbal medicine. So as I have indicated in my previous slides, every year we have about, let's say, 100 products in EU being registered. But how about the traditional Chinese medicine? In fact, the traditional Chinese medicine so far till now, we have only 6 medicine has been registered. So 6 traditional Chinese medicine registered, and plus 1, that is Yamato House. As I have also indicated, this is a temple medicine, but in fact, it's also a combination formula, like a Liu Junzi Tang, 6 gentlemen's formula. So therefore, I consider it's also belong one of the Chinese medicine. So all taken together, we have 7 Chinese medicine has been registered in Europe. As you can also see, the Netherlands is one of the pioneers. You can see in these 7 products, you can see majority of them are registered in the Netherlands, and then in UK and in Germany. So this is also indicated for traditional medicine registration, especially from Chinese medicine or from other cultures. And the Netherlands is quite an open-minded country to receive, to evaluate, to give you approval for traditional medicine. Of course, when we're talking about medicine, then we need to have a good quality. So therefore, in fact, this morning you have also heard about the lecture from Professor Chen about the problem for Aristolochic acid containing contaminant in the Chinese medicine, and therefore cause a lot of ladies, 100 ladies, they have kidney issues. And in fact, so since that happens, European Union has decided to establish a European pharmacopoeia. Within the European Pharmacopoeia, the Chinese Herbal Committee, so that is a TCM working party that is started from 2009 till now. So we have worked many, trying to establish Chinese herbal medicine monograph. So from this year onwards, I'm happy will be the chair. I'm the chair for this TCM working party. I'm sure we have now about more than 100 Chinese herbs elaborated in the European Pharmacopoeia. I think in the future we will do more, because for the TCM practitioner, you need at least 360 herbal to make your formula. So 100 herb is not enough, but we have to do it gradually. Like this morning, this Professor Chen also talked about toxic herb. So this is also quite an important issue, because in Europe, we already have a guideline from EMA, any herbal which is containing toxic compound is not allowed to develop monographic. So this also indicates like aconite, like Aristolochic containing Yi-Chang azalia, they are all not will be in the European Pharmacopoeia, very unfortunately. So we hope, because like some of the toxic compounds, maybe they do have some effectivity, but from regulatory perspective, at this moment, it's not possible. So here you can see in the European herbals, we have already herbal drug, 180 European herbal drug in the European Pharmacopoeia, and about 110 in Chinese herbal in European Pharmacopoeia. We also have the herbal preparation, so it's an extract, but none of them, the herbal preparation from Chinese medicine base has been in the European Pharmacopoeia. Then of course we have also herbal preparation, the finished product, so even less. So we're talking about quality standards, and of course it's very important we are thinking about more broad in the global sphere. So in Europe, of course, we have European Pharmacopoeia. It's playing a leading role for the medicine, for quality control. And followed that, we have German Pharmacopoeia, and because they also, according to European rules, if European Pharmacopoeia doesn't have this monographic, national monographic play a lead. So therefore, in Germany, herbal medicine play a very important role. Therefore, many Chinese herbal, they are entered German Pharmacopoeia, DAB, and also in German pharmacist Pharmacopoeia, DAC. So this is also quite an interesting element. So not only European Pharmacopoeia, but in the national in Germany, we have also like the DAC is specifically established the T7 granule monograph. This does not happen anywhere in any countries, also not in European Pharmacopoeia. Then talking about the last issue about ISO. So ISO, because we have many things that we are dealing with drugs, with medicine, but when the Chinese herbal come in, maybe they can be a medicine, but they can be also as food or food supplement. So if they are the food or food supplement, the quality standard are not on the law of pharmacopoeia. So therefore, ISO could be a very interesting instrument for guaranteeing the quality. So again, why ISO? So here I want to give one specific issue about ISO could be a harmonization factors for quality standard. So you can see here we have different international standards and pharmacopoeias from Chinese, from European, from the British, from USP, from India. So from all different countries, I could, of course, could not list all of them, but I just chosen few of them. When we respect them, we take one example of curcuma longbone. So curcuma longbone is a quite interesting herb, not only in the Chinese pharmacopoeia, in Chinese medicine, but also in Ayurvedic medicine. Even more interesting is in our food. So when you eat curry and in from Japan, from India, it also contains curcuma longbone's product. When you look at this, when you compare with Chinese pharmacopoeia, Hong Kong standard, Japanese, USP, and European Pharmacopoeia, you can see each of them, they are not in the same quality standard. They have each of them so not all of them are the same. So that also blockages the international trading, because if you say I export my product according to Chinese pharmacopoeia, may not fit to UK pharmacopoeia, may not fit to European pharmacopoeia. So from trading perspective, maybe we can using the ISO standard for harmonization. So giving example what ISO has been successful worldwide. So you have this credit card. So you have a credit card in Europe, it works worldwide. So like MasterCard, American Express, it's work everywhere. That is the work of ISO. And we are talking about the papers. I say A4, A5, A3. All of you know what is the size. And that is work of ISO. So for the Chinese medicine, can we do such a way to harmonize the international standard? Of course, for the electricity blocks, which we have ISO didn't do the work. When you travel to UK or to Japan, to United States, you have to bring your own adapters. So hopefully the Chinese medicine can overcome this. We can also globally go the way this. So I quickly go through, and so here is the ISO from European different levels and also from the different member states, and in the Netherlands, we have our own ISO standard. So it's ISO committee, it's based in Delft, we have our ISO standard. And then I think the most important I would like to share with you is the bridge function of SU biomedicine. We joined the design the bridge, and together with the Chinese or any other industry, can be in Taiwan, can be in Singapore, we're building up the bridge, the Po-Hsun bridge, we bring them this product to European market, can be either as food or as medicine. Of course, the most important thing is we provide scientific evidence, because you have efficacy, quality, and safety. At all, you need to have scientific translation. So by this one, actually, I also want to share with you this morning the first lecture by Professor Yi-Chang. So he also talking about Wei medicine. It's also based on Professor Tommy Chen from Yale University. Here, I think I borrowed Tommy Chen's lecture again, the slides. Then he said East and West medicine and Western medicine. We are talking about the holistic approach in both Chinese and East Western medicines. So from different levels, personalized medicine, preventive medicines. So from this perspective, we think we are going to build up Wei medicine. So combined with Western and Eastern knowledge to provide the best healthcare for human beings. So this is, I think it's very nice motivation for our work to building up the Wei medicine, especially nowadays, the Western medicine are facing preventive personalized treatment, because our clinic study make it very difficult to personalize, while our Chinese medicine, Eastern medicine, this is their power, and especially preventive medicine would be very important. To combine both knowledge will be the best for healthcare. At the end, I would like also to introduce the society, which is based on EU Framework Society, and this is the GPTCM Research Association, which I'm the chair at this moment. So every year we have new chairs, and this group we are doing research. It's a non-profit organization doing research in clinic, in pharmacology, in quality, and also in regulatory. And so this year we are going to have the 14th annual meeting in Singapore. So I would like to show you these pictures. I hope you are very welcome to participate. To be a member of GPTCM, you can see the link at the bottom. So it's free of charge, and for all the students, research, institute members, they are all very welcome to this conference. So at the end, I think for healthcare, of course, we need to change our mind, to use new knowledge, using Asian Western to serve to our healthcare. I thank you for your attention.
It's a great honor for me to be here today and to share with you my experiences and reflections from clinical practice and professional exchange. And yeah, as mentioned, I'm the chair of the Buonomo conference, the TCM conference in Württemberg. And I am half Taiwanese. My mother is from Taiwan, and my parents Suda. They both studied there, and I had my acupuncture and herb training in Germany, but had the chance to also learn in Taiwan and at the Chengdu University. So and also in my family, we do a lot of cross-cultural themes. And so yes, and I'm thankful to be able to contribute today. So to understand the role of Chinese medicine in Europe today, it's helpful to take a brief look
at how it arrived here and how it developed over time. European encounters with Chinese medicine go back several centuries. However, at that time, Chinese medicine did not establish itself as a sustained medical system in Europe. It remained a topic of curiosity and scholarly interest rather than everyday clinical practice. The major turning point came much later in the second half of the 20th century. From the 60s to the 80s, acupuncture entered European medicine in a more systematic way. It was mainly introduced, as we heard before, through pain management and anesthesia, often by the physicians. Germany and France became important early centers, and professional circles began to form, like the first Serum Congress in Rotterdam. But of course, at that time, if you wanted to study Chinese medicine, you'd have to go to Taiwan or maybe the US. From the 90s onward, acupuncture was increasingly embedded into a broader understanding of Chinese medicine, like herbal medicine, diagnostics, and lifestyle approaches gained more attention. Schools and professional associations were founded, classical texts were translated, and the first institutional settings, clinical settings emerged. Up to today, Chinese medicine in Europe continues to professionalize through research, education, and international exchange. At the same time, it remains largely shaped by private practice and patient demand rather than by public healthcare structures. One important milestone in this development was the first TCM Congress in Württemberg in 1968. This was one of the earliest structured gatherings for Chinese medicine in Europe, and it focused initially on acupuncture and clinical exchange. On the following decades, Württemberg developed into an international platform. During the 70s and 80s, practitioners from different European countries came together, and early dialogue with Chinese and later international teachers emerged. In the 90s and 2000s, the scope expanded further. Herbal medicine, classical theory, and academic discussion became more prominent, and the Congress structures professionalized. Today, the TCM Congress Württemberg is the largest international TCM Congress outside Asia. It is multidisciplinary, multilingual, and clinically focused. Its history mirrors the broader development of Chinese medicine in Europe. It is shaped by continuity, dialogue, and international collaboration. So if we zoom in now on Germany, there is several restrictive features become visible. First, acupuncture is clearly the dominant and most visible modality. For many patients, policymakers, and even healthcare professionals, Chinese medicine is often equated with acupuncture. Other pillars of Chinese medicine, such as herbal therapy, dietetics, or movement practices, are much less widely known. Second, Chinese medicine in Germany is practiced primarily in private outpatient settings. There is very limited presence in hospitals or public clinics, and Chinese medicine exists largely outside public healthcare structures. Where acupuncture is used in hospitals, for example, in psychiatry, pain management, or rehabilitation, it is applied as an adjunct therapy within biomedical treatment plans. It does not function as an independent medical system in these settings. Another important feature is the treatment structure. In many practices, one practitioner treats one patient at a time, from analysis and diagnosis to treatment and needle removal, so maybe for an hour or longer, and this creates a highly individualized and relationship-based form of care, but it also limits scalability and makes hospital integration much more challenging. The professional landscape includes both physicians and non-medical practitioners with diverse educational pathways. There are strong professional associations and extensive continuing education, but integration into public healthcare remains limited. Research activity and insurance coverage focus mainly on acupuncture. Then when we look at Europe more broadly, research visibility provides another important perspective. This map based on ResearchGate data, it shows strong research activity related to acupuncture and Chinese medicine in several European regions, particularly in Germany, the Netherlands, France, the UK, Italy, and Scandinavia. It is important to emphasize that this map reflects research visibility, not the full clinical reality. Most published studies focus on acupuncture, while other pillars of Chinese medicine, again, are far less represented in academic literature. In addition, Chinese medicine is regulated very differently across Europe. Like the legal status, the professional recognition, and scope of practice vary widely from country to country. This fragmented regulatory landscape strongly shapes both research output and clinical visibility. As a result, what we see on this map is not only a reflection of scientific activity, but also of structural and regulatory conditions. This slide contrasts two very different models of how Chinese medicine is embedded in healthcare systems. In Europe, Chinese medicine has developed largely outside public healthcare structures, and practice is mainly private and outpatient. Acupuncture is the dominant modality, and hospital use is usually limited to general. Regulation and professional recognition remain fragmented across countries. Taiwan demonstrates a fundamentally different approach. Taiwanese medicine is integrated into public health care, it is practiced as a complete medical system and embedded in hospital structures. It is covered by national health insurance and supported by clear educational and professional regulation. TCM is an integral part of Taiwanese life. An important point is also that efficiency and individual care are not opposites. In Taiwan, physicians also often treat one patient at a time, but the consultation length are adapted pragmatically. Also, herbal medicine is more widely used. The term Zhong usually refers to a person that is who does herbal medicine, and the acupuncture has its own term, like the Zuo Zhenjiu. And unlike Germany, where Chinese medicine usually means acupuncture. From a European perspective, this model shows that integration, efficiency, and accessibility are possible without losing the core principles of Chinese medicine. The key argument for stronger integration is actually quite simple. Chinese medicine is clinically effective, cost-efficient, and associated with comparatively low side effects. These characteristics are particularly relevant for chronic, functional, and stress-related conditions, which place a growing burden on European healthcare systems too. Patient demand for Chinese medicine is high across Europe, even though access remains largely private and structurally limited. What is still missing is not clinical relevance, but structural integration. Visibility within public health care, sustainable frameworks for herbal practice and for herbal medicine, and clear professional regulation. Taiwan shows that such integration is possible. The challenge for Europe is not to whether to integrate Chinese medicine, but how to do so responsibly and system-wide. When professional regulation is the key condition to a meaningful integration, clear regulation builds trust for patients, for institutions, and policymakers. It defines professional responsibility, it protects patients,
and creates legitimacy for Chinese medicine within healthcare systems. Across Europe, regulation varies widely. In Germany, for example, practice is only possible as a physician or as a heilpraktiker, and international training is only partially recognized. This limits accessibility and makes system-wide integration difficult. Switzerland offers an interesting reference point. There, practitioners can qualify through a national professional examination, independent of where they studied. This shows that regulation is not about restriction, it is about recognition, and it is a crucial step toward integrating Chinese medicine responsibility into European healthcare systems. To conclude, Chinese medicine is already part of everyday healthcare reality in Europe. Patients use it, practitioners are well trained, and demand continues to grow. But what is still underutilized is its full potential. Taiwan demonstrates that Chinese medicine can be integrated into public healthcare systems in a structured, efficient, and patient-centered way. This experience is highly relevant for Europe. If Europe wants to respond to rising healthcare costs, chronic disease burden, and the need for sustainable care models, Chinese medicine deserves greater visibility, clearer professional regulation, and integration beyond acupuncture. So the goal is not to copy one system, but to learn how Chinese medicine can become a recognized and effective part of European healthcare Europe-wide. Thank you very much.
So, first of all, thank you very much for the invitation for us to be here. I represent the NBA here today, and I get the chance to speak about one of my favorite topics. Let me take you on a short journey of what acupuncture and TCM in Holland is. Now, large part of the previous talk actually covers what the situation is in Holland. So I will pick out a number of things where things are different, maybe to highlight what is so special about the Dutch healthcare system. I can imagine for the Dutch people here, it'll be quite boring because you live it. But at the same time, you know, the people who maybe are not as familiar with the situation, maybe you find it meaningful and learning. Let me quickly see how to. There we go. So, for this talk, actually, I will use the terms TCM, TEAM interchangeably. There's a bit of a history. Some of the slides will mention TCM, some will mention TEM, but I will use it interchangeably. We've seen in other talks that the history is a common history. Then move it out of each other. Different countries took different approaches, and things were combined back again. So that's why we use the term interchangeably. What is special in Holland is that, especially acupuncture, but TCM is part of complementary care. There was every year there's a study by the RBCZ, which is an association that does quality control for healthcare work at bachelor level. And last year they did again. They interviewed about 2,000 people, and they got the feedback that about 80% of the Dutch population knows about complementary care in the widest sense. About 25% of the Dutch population will make use of complementary care. 7% of the Dutch population may use acupuncture. Acupuncture is by far the biggest modality out of all the complementary care landscape. So that also includes orthomolecular therapies. It also includes manual therapy, and it includes a wide range of modalities. In Holland, we have about 2,200 practicing acupuncturists. We expect, but it's difficult to estimate, that it's a low few thousand that work as TCM therapists. So that may include also herbalists, may also include tweener, or one of the three modalities. But this underscores the role of acupuncture in the various health arenas that the Dutch live in. One thing to recognize is that in Holland, acupuncture is a free profession, which means that anyone can call themselves acupuncturist. And this is important to know when we get back to one of the further slides. Of course, this is always something that is of concern. Free professions are by definitions a challenge, and how do you deal with that? I'll tell you how we deal with it here. Now, healthcare in Holland is mandatory. Everyone above 18 must have healthcare insurance. Every January and December and January, you'll see a large advertising and commercial campaigns by all the insurance companies. People want to change their insurance company. And it is mandatory, but it is also possible to buy additional coverage. And those additional coverages can be all kinds of things. Can be dental coverage, can be physiotherapy, extra physiotherapy coverage, but it could also be complementary care. When people want to get reimbursement through the insurance, they must have bought additional coverage. Otherwise, it's paid out of pocket. And actually, about 40% of the Dutch population who visits the acupuncturist will pay it out of pocket, which is, it can be a bit of a challenge. But I'll talk to you about that a little bit later. So, the NBA is the largest professional acupuncture organization here in the Netherlands. We have about 1,200 members. We focus on acupuncture. It is not the only professional organization. We also have the Zhang, which also is great for herbalists. We also have the NAV, which is a particular kind of a professional association, which you're only allowed to join when you're a doctor. But grosso modo, the NBA is the largest. And what the NBA does in particular as a professional association is to advocate for the members, as well as promoting and ensuring high standards of professionalism in the acupuncture practice, which is essential for maintaining public trust and safety. The assurance of quality doesn't only benefit the practitioners, but also the patients and the public. But it also serves an additional point, and that comes back to the insurance. Anyone who has bought additional coverage, goes to the acupuncturist and wants to get reimbursement, only will get that if the acupuncturist is part of a professional association. And that membership is the gatekeeping for the quality of the acupuncturist. So even though it is a free profession and everyone is allowed to visit anyone who calls him or herself an acupuncturist, the fact that membership is a proxy for quality control makes that people look for acupuncturists with affiliations to professional memberships. So to become an NVA member, and again, I'm here representing the NVA member, but it's very similar to the other professional agencies, except the amount where you need to be a doctor. The education in Holland for TCM practitioners is a 3-year education. The entry level is after high school. We have an unusual setting for high school, but if you meet sort of the 50% mark of aptitude, intellectual aptitude, you're allowed entry into bachelor programs. The accredited schooling through the NVA is all at bachelor level. This means that someone can join an acupuncture or a TCM school right after high school, but very few people do. Here in Holland, actually, the largest part of the population in the TCM education is people who do it as a second career, sometimes even a third career. So overall, the population of graduating TCM practitioners is relatively old. The NVA membership requires a bachelor degree, but to become a member, you have to be not just graduated from TCM Academy, you also have to have a basic knowledge, foundation knowledge of Western medicine. I think this is one of the parts that I'm not sure if that is the case in Germany, but here it is, it's mandatory, and it's about the equivalent of a year's study. Once you are accepted as a member, the membership is contingent on furthering continuous education. Every year there's a mandatory amount of days that must be allocated for training, and there's a split in whether that is acupuncture, TCM, or Western medicine. So going to the future, there are a number of things that the NVA does. So it's to present and be the well-being for the NVA members. It's to advocate for them. It's to ensure the quality of the education. It's to ensure the quality of continued education, but there's a number of other things that we do as well. One of the things is to improve the public knowledge. Every year, the NVA has what we call a week of acupuncture. This year it was a theme, and there's clips and videos. Social media is widely used, and through that we try to reach the broader public, but also the people who work in Western medicine who are curious about maybe what the effects would be of traditional Chinese medicine, where it could be applied for, what kind of theories are there, and what kind of practices there are. We also, of course, we continue to further our high standard, and this it could be in the content of acupuncture, but it could also be in collaborating with one of the things that is came through all today, the collaboration with other networks, whether it's other countries or other professional organizations, is to try and further our own content for the benefit of our members, but actually more for the benefit of the wider public and the people who come to visit us for treatment. In September, there will be a congress here in the Netherlands. It's one of the things that we will participate in to try and develop. is expected. There will be quite a large congress. It is not just the NBA who's doing that, and Sol is also involved in that. A number of organizations try to bring it together, but it'll be a large congress. And actually, in 2014, there was a similar congress which was widely visited and maybe not as big as Gothenburg, but it was a big deal for Holland. Another thing that we try to emphasize again to try and bring the world a little bit closer is what was orchestrated by two of the NBA members who are here, and together with Western practitioners, they developed an oncology course for acupuncturists. So the target group was acupuncturists, but the contributors were also people from Western medicine, whether it was oncologists or nurses, people from the field. And of course, this helps tremendously with making sure that you have all the knowledge available and try to bring that together as much as you can so that people learn as much as they possibly can from many different angles. The other side benefit of that is that acupuncturists here in Holland, I showed you the statistics, 20% doesn't even know what complementary care is. Only 7% of the people who visit an acupuncturist. We're not widely known yet. And one of the things that this course, this oncology course, enabled was to give people the language to speak with Western practitioners. So, because there's a tremendous overlap, but it's also within our professional group, there's a hindrance, there's a little bit of an obstacle, perhaps some hesitation to go and speak about your expertise. But one of the benefits of this course was, apart from the deep knowledge that everyone gained, was also the confidence that you can speak with Western practitioners, because you do speak maybe not exactly the same language, but it's all about patient care. We have a website. Now it sounds boring. We have a website, I know. At the same time, it is something that I, as a practitioner, refer often to, because I will get people in the practice and they will ask you, but is it proven that this works? Now, of course, that's a long conversation, but for some people, I refer to the website because indeed there is a lot of proof. There's a lot of scientific evidence, and a lot of people only trust what I say if they see it is published in some journal somewhere. And if that works, it works, in my book anyway. So we have a tremendous website where there's a lot of scientific knowledge. And the other thing is that we also worked pretty hard to get acupuncture mentioned on the IIAS. Now, maybe the practitioners here will know it, but it's integrated kanker in Nederland, which means that it is a source for anyone who was confronted with the diagnosis of cancer, whether it is somebody who received the diagnosis or somebody who has a family member or a friend who's received the diagnosis. And IIAS talks about all kinds of different modalities, methods that you can help through the journey of the treatment or after. And acupuncture, there's a whole list of possible side effects or effects that people get from the diagnosis, and acupuncture is mentioned underneath every one of them. So that's it just brings it to people's mind that it is a modality that can be useful in many different settings. And the last thing is that research, we've talked a lot about research today, we've heard a lot about research today, whether it's for acupuncture or for herbs. It is an essential part of our profession, and it's an essential part of validating what we do. And one of the things that we do as the NBA, we take that very seriously. So a decent part of our disposable income every year is attributed to a good current research. At the moment, it is called Acupuncture, and it's a study that's ongoing, and it talks about actually the same thing that I just talked about with cancer. So how acupuncture can be of use during the treatment or maybe after the treatment. And this is a valid and wide research effort. That was the lay of the land of TCM and his, in particular, acupuncture here in Holland. Again, for the Dutch, probably well-known knowledge, but for those who are not Dutch and you are moving here to Holland, now you know what you can expect. Thank you very much.